First, we'll start with the anatomy of the outer ear, or the auricle, which is also called the pinna. At the bottom, we have the lobe, the eminence of the tragus, antitragus, and the intertragal notch. On the side of the ear, we have the helix, which ends at the crus of the helix. The crus of the helix is one of the divisions of the antihelix. The antihelix is this eminence. The antihelix and the helix make up the fossa triangularis, which is this depression. Above the antihelix is a depression called the scaphoid fossa. In the middle of the ear is the concha, which are divided into the cymboconcha and the cavum concha. This is next to the entryway called the external auditory meatus, or EAM for short. It's divided into two parts. One part cartilaginous, which is the lateral 1/3, and one bony part, which is the medial 2/3. And the outer 1/3 is where the cerumen or earwax is formed by the sebaceous glands. This is the physiology of the outer ear. The auricle gathers high-frequency sounds from the environment, from 2,000 to 7,000 Hz. It also localizes sounds, which means being able to tell where a sound comes from in the environment. The EAM warms air prior to hitting the tympanic membrane, and also produces cerumen, which cleans and protects the ear from dirt and debris. Next, we will talk about the tympanic membrane, which is also known as the eardrum. Here we can see the manubrium of the malleus. This part is the umbo, which is the greatest point of retraction on the tympanic membrane. The annulus surrounds the tympanic membrane, and it is a ring of tissue that goes around it. Up here is the pars flaccida, which is the loose tissue on the tympanic membrane. Down here is the pars tensa, which is the tense tissue on the tympanic membrane. The physiology of the tympanic membrane is that the tympanic membrane aids in improving sound transmission to the inner ear. This is where the first chain of auditory events happen. Sound waves impinge on the tympanic membrane, causing it to vibrate. Higher frequency sounds vibrate faster, and lower frequency sounds vibrate slower in the tympanic membrane. The tympanic membrane is made up of 3 layers. First, a lateral epithelial layer, a central fibrous layer, and a medial mucus layer.
Next, we move our discussion on to the middle ear. On the other side of the tympanic membrane lies the middle ear space. The middle ear is an air-filled cavity that converts sound waves into mechanical energy through the motion of the ossicles. The ossicles are the 3 bones of the middle ear. They include the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. The manubrium of the malleus is embedded into the fibrous portion of the tympanic membrane. The head of the malleus is connected to the incus, which is connected to the stapes by the lenticular process. The footplate of the stapes is embedded into the oval window. The 3 ossicles move in response to vibration of the tympanic membrane. The footplate of the stapes moves in and out of the oval window, transferring movement onto the fluid-filled inner ear. In order to simplify our discussion of the middle ear, we can think of the middle ear as a 6-sided cube. Each wall has several very important landmarks. To start, the superior wall, or the ceiling of the middle ear, houses the tegmen tympani. The tegmen tympani is a bony sheet that separates the middle ear from the cranial cavity. Next, we have the inferior wall, which contains the jugular fossa. The anterior wall, seen here, has a number of very important landmarks. It houses the tensor tympani muscle and canal, the entrance to the eustachian tube, and the carotid artery. The eustachian tube is of particular importance because it acts as a pressure equalizer for middle ear and ambient pressure. Next, we have the posterior wall. The posterior wall contains the adytus, the pyramidal eminence, and the chorda tympani nerve. Next, we see the medial wall here. The medial wall contains the prominence of the semicircular canals, the prominence of the facial nerve canal, the promontory, the oval, and the round window. Finally, we have the lateral wall. It is not pictured, but contains the tympanic membrane. Now we are going to talk about the physiology of the middle ear. The middle ear is an air-filled cavity that converts sound waves into mechanical energy. As vibrations get transferred from the air-filled middle ear to the fluid-filled inner ear, energy is lost. The middle ear is important because it acts as an impedance matching system to make up for this loss in energy. It does this in two ways. First, the diameter of the tympanic membrane is much larger than the diameter of the stapes footplate. Because of this, vibrations from the tympanic membrane are extremely concentrated onto the stapes. This concentration increases pressure. Second, the ossicles make use of lever action. Here, the force received at the footplate of the stapes is much greater than the force applied at the malleus. These two combined effects make up for the 30 decibel loss that would have been lost due to air-fluid impedance mismatch.
Next, we will discuss the inner ear. Behind the oval window lies the cochlea, the vestibule, and the semicircular canals, posterior, horizontal, and superior. The vestibule is the entrance into the cochlea. Within the vestibule is the utricle and saccule. Within the cochlea, we have the scala vestibuli, the scala media, also known as the cochlear duct, and the scala tympani. The motion of the stapes on the oval window displaces the perilymph in the scala vestibuli from the base of the cochlea to the apex. Here, the perilymph in the scala vestibuli communicates with the perilymph in the scala tympani at the heliocatrina. The perilymph then moves from the apex back down to the base of the cochlea and through the round window. Next, we will discuss the organ of Corti, which is the end organ for hearing in the cochlea. It is housed on the basilar membrane, which separates the scala media from the scala tympani. Separating the scala media from the scala vestibuli is the Reisner's membrane. The movement of the fluid and the movement of the basilar membrane causes the outer hair cells to shear against the tectorial membrane. The bending of the cilia causes a chemical, mechanical, cochlear microphonic release and action potential. Energy is then transferred to the auditory nerves where the brain interprets the sound. Lastly, we have the vestibular system, which consists of the superior, horizontal, and posterior semicircular canals. These canals end at the ampulla, which contain the end organ for balance, the crista, which are responsible for the angular acceleration. The movement of the fluid in the semicircular canals allows the body to interpret its location in space. This helps with our posture, balance, and ocular reflexes. Next, we have the utricle and saccule. They contain the end organs for balance, the macula. The macula are responsible for interpreting linear acceleration.
In summary, the outer ear is responsible for gathering and funneling sounds from the environment into the auditory mechanism. The tympanic membrane vibrates in response to sound waves and transfers this motion onto the ossicles. The middle ear is responsible for converting sound waves into mechanical energy. Finally, the inner ear is responsible for converting the pressure waves into energy that can be interpreted by the auditory nerve and brain as sound.